Well, you know what they say about every James Wan sixth installment of a franchise. Six times the charm, right? Hello everyone, my name is Jake from Talk Too Much. I just got back after seeing Insidious out the further. And we're here. We're here in 6 movies into this franchise. And so to give a rundown of my history with Insidious, I was not one of the people that watched the first movie when it came out, nor the second, nor third. I think it was maybe the fourth one that came out when I started growing a little bit of an interest with Insidious. I watched the first one after my assistant manager at one of my high school jobs told me it was one of the best horror movies he'd seen in decades. So of course I took his advice and I went and saw the original one. And so the original one, even though it was one of the first horror movies I ever saw, it was one of the movies that just left me scratching my head going, is this really it? And so now here we are, 5 films later from the original one with Insidious out of the further. And there's a lot to talk about here. So the plot of Insidious Out of the Further is a movie about a woman who, when she was a little girl, her mother was going through this whole traumatic event in their house, seeing spirits, things like that, and eventually her mother passes away, and she carries on those same spirits inside that house. And so she is just left wondering, along with her daughter, why is this all happening to me now? Where are all the connections between what happened to my mother and me? And so eventually these spirits are trying to get into the actual real world, and there's nothing else to do but to stop them. And I'll be honest with you, I saw the trailer of this movie and I was maybe a little excited because I was like, oh, that doesn't look too bad. This movie, it follows the same exact pattern as every single Insidious movie. And what I mean by that is you're going to get a great first act. You're going to think to yourself, wow, they're doing a great job. But in the back of your head, you're going to know, how are they going to fumble the ball here? Starting off with the positives, along with all the Insidious films, and including this one, I do think that the way that the makeup design and the way that these creatures, these spirits look, they've always looked really great. I think that this is very much a good, creepy movie. It's a Blumhouse signature film, but not in an insulting way, I can at least say. I mean, you understand why Insidious is such a big movie, especially after you watch the original one. I mean, James Wan had a lot of great ideas going into that original film, but the problem is when you're 5 movies later, you're wondering, okay, how are we going to keep everything up to par? So I can at least say when it comes to the spirits design, they find new ways to kind of just add little details and make them a little creepy, make each one of them unique, and I can really praise it for that. Another positive I can give is that they kind of stick to their rules a little bit. They don't bend or break them a little bit too much. They kind of just stick with what we know about the Insidious world, the Insidious franchise. They don't try to be like, oh, well, here's a little loophole here. Oh, here's a loophole here. It sticks with its rules, which I can at least appreciate a franchise that is consistent about that. And along with that, they take ideas to try and expand the lore of the Insidious world, which I thought you're 6 movies into a franchise. You have to come up with something to keep the audience interested, or else by the time 7 or 8 are coming out, people are not going to be going to the theaters that much to be able to see these movies because we just know what to expect. So they push that envelope more than usual. I really appreciate it for that. And lastly, what I'll give is the story. Now, this story, when I originally heard about it and realized what the plot was, I kind of was worried that we were going to be on more of the generic modern trope for horror, generational trauma. I mean, we've seen it a billion times. Now we're applying it to Insidious. How is it really going to benefit us in any way when it comes to an Insidious film? And they do it in a really well and creative way where actually I had more of an emotional attachment to this movie. I respected it a lot more once I understand what it was trying to do. It made a lot of sense, and actually I felt it helped this movie a lot to where I can't say it's one of the bad Insidious films because the story actually means something here. Moving on to my mixed factor of this movie, other than the main character, A lot of these characters, they're just fine. There's nothing really to grab on here. There's no specific character that's gonna make you go, oh my gosh, I love them so much. Like, they're a real standout. Everybody does a decent job here. It's nothing too crazy. The script was pretty interesting, especially when they were trying to expand the lore idea here. It's not, I don't know, there just was some odd moments where the script just felt a little bit off, some tension moments that just felt like they weren't properly tensed as they should be. So I did have a few issues with just some of the relationship with these characters and the way that they were speaking back and forth, and just how this main character was approaching the problem of what's going on in this movie. Another mixed factor I do also have about this movie is the setting of this movie. Now, I do not want to get into spoilers. This is not a spoiler video of Insidious. I had a problem kind of with the setting of the house that everything was playing out at. And the reason being is because they tried to tell you like the house is not the reason why everything is happening. It's more so because of our main character. But the house just plays such a huge role in the specific scene with these main characters. And so it kind of leaves you with that question of why are you still living here? Like, why not just move? I'm sure it'll help a little bit. Like, it's just, especially with what happens in the beginning of this film, it kind of leaves you questioning, like, why are we still here? What is so significant about this house that we just have to stay here? That is a little bit of a puzzling factor I have with this movie and just the setting of it. It does try to do some things like expand where the Insidious universe, where it's showing, hey, this is all happening. It's not just happening in a house, it's happening at the dentist's office, it's happening here and there, it's happening on the sidewalk, it's happening in your neighbor's house, which I again appreciate, but to me it felt so puzzling with where the main storyline was being placed at. I had to throw it in here as a mix. Now moving on to my negatives. In this movie, it's not bad. I can at least say it's not a bad Insidious movie. We've had other entries that are far worse than this. I can say that at least. But this movie just didn't. It follows the same issue I have with every Insidious movie, where the beginning is so strong. I get invested in these characters. It's starting to spook you a little bit, being like, oh, what's that spirit? What's that demon there? And it plays fun with that, and it really sets you and engages you to where you're very focused on the screen. But just like every single Insidious movie, and it happens every single one, and this has happened now for the sixth time, maybe the fifth time, but it gets to the halfway point, and then they just, feels like they just stop caring. It feels like you can predict what's gonna kind of happen, and you just get bored. You get bored, and I hate saying that, but like, it's, you either get bored or you just don't like the way that the story wraps up. And that's my issue with this movie, is there comes a certain scene in the halfway point that if you've seen the movie, I could tell you where it was, you'd understand. And then as soon as that happens, you're just kind of left going, I'm like, I'm bored. None of the jumps are really getting to me. I mean, this isn't really making me want to jump out of my chair. Like, my wife almost fell asleep watching this movie because it just, nothing was really happening for it, which is quite unfortunate. But I do feel like there were a lot of moments, especially in that third act, they could have fixed things up and made it just a lot stronger. Along with that, I do have some questions about Elise being involved in this movie. So this is a spoilers if you haven't seen the first Insidious movie, but Elise dies in the original Insidious movie. So she's stuck in the further, and it feels like they were still trying to find a way to include her in this movie. It's just a little odd the way they do it. Again, one of those things that I just don't fully understand. I'm sure they pay her a lot of money to be involved in these movies, and I'm great, girl, get your bag. But I'm still puzzled as to why we keep including some of these characters here and there when really we should be trying to push the world of Insidious. Maybe involve characters from other movies rather than Elise in the same one over and over and over again to kind of be our exposition dump. because that very much starts to feel like, oh, Elise is here for the exposition dump. Let's hear it and let's go from there. Overall, though, it's not a bad movie. I would definitely say this is one of the safe beginner guides for horror. Definitely, I'd say for teenagers especially, this is a great entryway for horror. Even the original Insidious movie, it doesn't push the boundaries, but if you're like, hey, if you want to get into horror but you don't know where to begin and you don't want to go something too extreme, try Insidious. Try Insidious out the further. And that's also to say that this movie does not spoil anything that happens in the previous movies, which is very nice. This can be a standalone film, and I appreciate it for that too as well. It's just, this is something where I feel like it's the same thing, rinse and repeat over and over again, with just a few ideas here and there. So overall, that's going to be my thoughts. So like, share, comment, let me know down below what's your favorite Insidious film, what you think about this new Insidious film. Share the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.